1978 documentary, a group of teenagers is brought to New Jersey prison. They will then be threatened by a group of life imprisonment inmates to prove that the prison is not where they expect it to be. The program allows young people to experience the dogmatic life of real prisons and the interaction with adult prisoners, so as to keep them away from crime and reduce the rate of recidivism. The results of the documentary show that 16 of the 17 teenagers who participated in the Scared Street did not commit crimes in the following 3 months. The success rate reached 94%. As a result, the program was quickly accepted by the public and replicated in more than 30 states in the United States. Later, other countries began to try to use Scared Street and similar programs. For example, Australia's Stay in Prison, Britain's Day Visits, Hong Kong, China's Personal Encounter with Prisoners game, and so on. However, this proved to be a controversial program in the follow-up study. In some randomized tests with the addition of a control group, teens who participated in the program were more likely to recidivism than the control group. For the introduction of the implementation of the program, we will take the New Jersey Prison Program and the Hong Kong Reform Personal Encounter with Prisoners game as examples. Basic process of the program is to organize juveniles with an average age of 14 to 17 to visit prison facilities and interact with the life imprisonment inmates. These juveniles have committed crimes or are at risk of committing crimes. Their parents voluntarily involve their children in this program. The prisoners involved in the scheme were asked to look after the minors. Deterrence and hostilities are used to prevent future crimes committed by minors. It also includes non-confrontational speeches by prisoners to teenagers who exaggerate the painful life in prison, such as being murdered or raped by others. They will also explain how they went to jail and clearly show the teenagers the negative effects of the crime. Usually, participants need to spend some time in prison. During this period, minors will interact with the prison guards and be deliberately exposed to some harsh conditions to deepen their negative impression of the prison. In Hong Kong, the personal encounter with prisoners game is more moderate than that of New Jersey prison. Students over 14 years old with misconduct will be invited to visit the correctional institution, and long-term prisoners with a good record of performance will be selected as their meeting objects. After introducing the scheme and precautions, the staff will show the students around the prison facilities. Then is a group discussion between students and prisoners. Prisoners will tell their own stories so as to deepen the students' understanding of the cost of crime and the pain of prison life. Finally, the staff will answer questions for the students and guide them to discuss and evaluate the scheme. The students just visit and don't need to live in prison. So, is Scared Street effective?
So my name is Lin Chen An, and I'm going to talk about the positive findings of the Scared Strike program. The only positive findings shown in the empirical studies were reported in Virginia, America in 1981, called the Insiders Program. The Insiders Program was a confrontational intervention program with both verbal and graphical descriptions of adult prison life. Juvenile participants were locked in cell for 15 minutes and told about the daily routine by a guard. They then participated in a 2-hour brief session with inmates. The juvenile delinquent participants were chosen from 3 different court service units in Virginia, and the investigators randomly assigned the total 80 juveniles who ages 13 to 20. They were under 2 or more period adjudications for delinquency and joined the Insiders program, or they are no treatment control group. So the investigators divided them into 3 different time schedules after participating in this program. The outcome measures were 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months intervals, with only the participants of the experiment are favored in 9 months and 12 months, but the control was 6 months off. The results showed that although the differences between 2 groups of participants at 6 months was not statistically significant at all, the 9 months and 12 months participants have had a really dramatic attrition rates in crime compared to that of 6 months. For the 9 months interval, 42% of the original participants drop out of crime, which already more than that of 6 months of 41%, and even more for the 12 months participants. They had a 55% of dropout of crime. All in all, the research showed that this program was in some ways effective in recidivism prevention for juvenile offenders.
But does it really work? A Campbell review actually indicates that not only does it fail to deter crime, but it actually leads to more offending behavior. Reporting re-offending rates shows that the intervention increased the crime or delinquency outcomes at the first follow-up period. That is, the intervention to be more harmful than doing nothing. In addition to the consequences of committing another crime, some child experts said that Scare Street may harm the children both in mental and in physical. Scare Street emphasized severity of punishment, but neglect to other key components of deterrence theory, certainty and swiftness. There's also film and television show related to this strategy that also highlights the potential harm. There's a movie about that a governor's delinquent son is sent to prison as a participant of Scare Street program, but later the kid is taken hostage during a prison riot. Inmates play a key role in Project Scare Street, telling the young participants in blunt terms about the reality of jail life. In one episode of Beyond Scare Street, an inmate in Chester County told an 11-year-old boy named CJ, "Back here, locked up behind these walls, you will be somebody's girl. When they use the toilet, you will wipe their butt." At night, the children were awakened early for physical exercise and get a little sleep. According to Sheriff Johnny Neal, who oversees the program, the sleep they did get was on a hot metal slab, Neal said. Generally, they had the same mattress. Toward the end of two-day program, the deputies' attitude softened, telling the participants to open up their minds and encouraging them to take a better path. One deputy told them, "You can do it." Another said he was proud of them and offered a child a ride to school in the mornings. The children also were ordered to write letters to their parents. "I'm mad, I'm sad, and I'm in pain," said the 12-year-old boy as he wrote his letter. These inconsistent treatments may confuse the children and make them question what they have experienced. The tears and the emotional roller coaster that the children experienced were driven by the inflated egos and the lack of empathy on the part of the inmates who were apparently using their newfound authority and power over their charges. Many kids are suffering through this program without getting better, and in some cases, they are getting worse. One of the main issues, beyond the simple fact that this strategy does not work, is that they can be traumatizing. In these cases, it is obvious that many children's problems, such as sociopathic disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, are treatable psychological problems. In other words, they are just sick, it is not their fault. What they need is a patient psychiatrist and low-stimulate environment. However, this strategy gives them the opposite influences. The second negative impact is that there is no uniform implementation standard. Project Storm, a jail program in Chester County, Sheriff Underwood said officials tried to exclude young people with medical and mental health problems. However, the Herald reporter interviewed the mothers of the 3 boys in the plan. They said their son was diagnosed with ADHD before attending the meeting. Underwood said that representatives of the Storm Project learned something only from observation, but did not receive a formal training. He said he does not have any documents describing how the program should run. This will not only affect the evaluation of the results, but will also cause different problems in the implementation process due to inconsistent standards. Just like the above plan, children who are not suitable for the participation are also added.
Third effectiveness of the negative aspect is that this kind of model cannot conducive to maintaining a deterrent effect of punishment. The Scared Straight program brings teenagers into an unfamiliar environment, realizing the imaginary prison. The young people who participated in the transformation have direct contact with the criminals at close range and intuitively understand the daily life of the criminals in the prison. Fear of criminal punishment reduces the sensitivity of deterrence. It is likely to become a criminal desensitization factor for minors. They may not be able to use the concept of imprisonment to restrain themselves in the future because they have experienced it. The fourth one is it may ignore the general prevention effect of penalties. We see that the purpose of punishment is special prevention and general prevention. The Scared Straight method seems to make special prevention for special groups, but in fact, this method itself will cause a certain degree of harm to the participants, and most of the children selected to participate are parents unable to discipline and perseverance. Young people who have already exhibit some bad behaviors. For this group, too direct contact with prisoners may increase their crime rate and even increase the degree of crime in the future. Such an education model will only serve to prevent them in advance as a special group and will not serve as a general prevention for society because they increase the victimization rate of the general population by increasing the crime rate of the participants. Well, from the 4 negative effectiveness above, we can see that. Similarly, youth correction programs like Scared Straight program in many countries and regions have similar manifestations. behind which actually reflects the lazy politic performance of some state organs in establishing a crime prevention mechanism. The government attempts to find a simple and rude theoretical measures to solve the problem, ignoring the scientific pre-examination, and the disadvantages exposed in the practice will cause more serious impact. However, in response to these circumstances, the face-to-face EMAT plan adopted by Hong Kong, China, circumvented some of these shortcomings.
I'm going to introduce the summary and suggestions. Why do Scare Straight programs backfire? The researchers' results indicate the Scare Straight intervention to be more harmful than doing nothing. The program effect, whether assuming a fixed or random effect model, was nearly identical and negative in direction, regardless of the meta-analytic strategy. In other words, Scare Straight not only doesn't work, it may actually be more harmful than doing nothing. Another meta-analysis shows Scare Straight interventions could possibly worsen conduct disorder symptoms. A meta-analysis conducted by AOS and colleges shows that the Scare Straight and similar programs produce substantial increases in recidivism. Compared with the Hong Kong Correctional Services Department, after borrowing the Scare Straight model, it not only provides safe conduct and appreciate rehabilitation plans, but also strives to work closely with different schools and social service organizations to actively promote community education and instill in students and young the correct values, make them responsible and law-abiding citizens, thereby recruiting crime. The Correctional Service Department, through a series of community education activities mainly targeted at secondary school and students and young people, such as educational lectures, meeting with prisoners, the Green Island Project, Waiting to Hong Kong Correctional Museum, extension of training performance, Compass, Young Symposiums, Corrective Arts, Rehabilitation Drama Musical Performance, The Road to Thinking About Prisoners, Summer Study Tours and Rehabilitative Prisoner Leaders, to promote them to the message of abiding by the law, staying away from drugs, and supporting rejuvenation. It is not just boring render of fear thinking, using methods acceptable to peers for education and publicity, so that young people do not have regular psychology and singularity psychology. Why is the current model counterproductive? No one can be sure, but there are at least two possibilities. First of all, many children who participated in activities may be reluctant to join gangs or use crime as a starting point. The fact that the criminals yelled at them and told them about the prison rape might make them think abnormally. If the authorities are going to take the extreme action to scare me, drawing a gun must be attractive. Second, there is an evidence that bringing young people together and may be counterproductive because they try to impress each other on their strengths. We should learn from Hong Kong and use the more constructive method to provide young people with direct information about the consequences of crime and bad behavior, while avoiding the counterproductive terrible components. For example, think about it. Many 15-year-olds are more concerned about their peers' views on them. That what authority figures want than what to do.